You know what? I'm just gonna say it. Anime of the season, or even anime of the year, has just arrived. And that's right, we are talking about Frieren Beyond Journey's End. I just finished watching the first 4 episodes, or the 2-hour special. Still not sure whether it's just 1 episode or 4 episodes. It was just cut into 4 for the international release. So either we have 23 episodes left, or 20. Either way, this first special was absolutely amazing. I loved everything I saw here. It was a real, deep, and meaningful experience from moment 1, and I cannot wait to share my thoughts on it. This first episode alone, I think, is the most impactful piece of anime I have watched in a long time. Personally, I am quite a stoic person, maybe much like Frieren in a way. I don't really show emotion, I don't really express emotion, but this first episode really got to me, and it really moved me on a deeper level than most entertainment can. Especially the aspects of when she comes back after 50 years, and they have this last adventure, and of course after Himmel dies as well, and her shedding those tears and showing that regret. Those moments were really beautiful and meaningful and really got to me. Now, there are a ton of things I want to discuss in this video, but first of all, I want to just get the combination of animation, music, and atmosphere out of the way first. I have to say that I knew Madhouse was going to bring its A game, as they generally always do, but I was thoroughly impressed with the animation style, the atmosphere, the attention to detail, and the music as well that they used to really increase the effect and impact of a lot of the scenes they were showing. If I'm not wrong, they did use a lot of, let's say, mixed, like Scottish, Celtic music in the first episode. Maybe I'm just crazy, but that's what it felt like to me. But all of these moments and all the work they put in to produce this animation, the music, the detail, it really made the impact of everything they were saying and showing on screen so much better for me. The biggest focus of the show, in my opinion, and the one that is the most interesting to me, is the passage of time, and how Frieren has such a fundamentally different view and understanding and perception and view of time. For her, 50 years is just but a moment. It's just a weekend away, basically. It is nothing to her, while it is an entire lifetime for most other people. The concept in and of itself is quite unique, right? Usually in these fantasy anime, we see the Adventurers Party go out to defeat the Demon King, and we end the season of the show with them actually doing so. But here, we start at the end of the journey, and that in and of itself creates a very interesting premise. This whole show really starts off with them coming back from the adventure. They are having these drinks to celebrate their victory with the people and such in this capital city. And Frieren says to her 3 other party members that, hey, we are all going our separate ways now. I'm gonna go adventuring, whatever. And I'll come back in 50 years. And we can see this meteor shower again, as there is this 50-year meteor shower that happens just that day, coincidentally. And she says, hey, I know a better place to watch this. So in 50 years, I'll come back and we'll all go watch it. And to her, that's just a totally normal thing of like, yeah, 50 years, I'll come back, we'll just go watch it, that's gonna be a good weekend out. But the others, of course, being like, wow, 50 years from now, are we even gonna be alive, all of us, by then? And already from that early point on, they showcase again this fundamental difference in perception of time. And of course, she comes back, they go on this adventure, they see the meteor shower, and you get all the moments that I really liked, as I mentioned earlier. And then we get to Himmel's death, as he was quite old at that point, and he dies. And from that point in the church, you really start to understand Frieren as a character more. That she, in the church, in the funeral, she doesn't really show emotion. She's stoic. She might seem cold. She might seem uncaring. Even multiple people in the church look at her and say, wow, isn't that the elf that adventured with him all the way 50 years ago? She's not even crying. She's not even looking sad. She hasn't looked sad all day. We do finally see her actually displaying some emotion, though, when they are burying him and throwing dirt on his coffin. And then you see that maybe regret is setting in for Frieren, with her saying that she didn't feel like she knew him at all, and she wanted to know him better, but now she never can. That time has passed. But for her, in her mind, she probably thought that, these people will be around forever. I can always get to know them better. I can always do these things later. Again, it's having a fundamental difference in how she understands time and how important time is for others outside of herself, and how limited it is on top of that as well. And this start of her realizing that, shit, I wasted all this time. I didn't get to know Himmel when he was alive. I would have liked to. And through this 4-episode arc, or starting special, you see how she slowly starts to realize that these people knew me so well, but I knew nothing about them. I didn't spend any time valuing them or really wanting to get to know them. I just tagged along, did our adventure, but I never really cared much to get to know them. Maybe I should have. And this brings us to another point that we get to know more and more about Frieren through these 4 episodes, in that she doesn't really seem to want to be connected with people or want to train people. For example, when she's asked to take an apprentice, it's like, why would I take an apprentice? They just die right away after I teach them stuff. What's the point? And they're just gonna drag me down, be a nuisance. And in all these different scenes, they showcase how Frieren just fundamentally doesn't maybe understand relationships, human connection, or the ability to really appreciate what she can build and share with other people, even if it is a limited time for her. But through these first 4 episodes, you start her trying to understand these things, to understand the human connections, the ability to maybe be more empathetic, to understand how different other people view many things, including especially time, than she does. And just the general perception of time and passing of time in this anime has been done extremely well, I would say. I have really enjoyed how they are portraying it so far. I feel I have barely even gotten to talk much about the first episode, but in this first episode alone, this show is able to invoke and show more emotion and move people more than most shows are able to do in an entire season, if not an entire show run. And that is damn impressive. After this whole 50-year time skip though, and the burial of Himmel, we have another 20-year time skip, and then she goes to meet Heather, because he is now old, right? The priest. He is now quite old, and she wanted to visit him before he also dies. She was visiting him because she thought he was dead already, but apparently not. Alcohol hadn't gotten to him. And that is when we get introduced to Fern, who will be a very important character moving forward in the season. Even though the priest character, Heather, might not have been the most interesting to start, he really grew on me in the 2nd episode before he passed away. In that, when he was younger, in their adventuring days, and in most of the years after that, he was just a drunkard. He liked drinking, like fooling around, just enjoying life, not really taking things too seriously. But when he got to a certain age, he realized that, okay, Himmel is gone. What am I doing with my life? Himmel was the sort of person that always saved people, always cared about people, always did the right thing by people. Now that he is gone, what am I going to do? Am I going to leave any legacy? How am I going to, let's say, provide some value in life with the little time I have left? And that is when he decides to basically save Fern from this war conflict in the south and adopt her. Because, as he says, that's what Himmel would have done. And him doing so, not just because he wants to maybe change in the time he has left, be someone better, but also to carry on the memory, the courage that Himmel had, and not letting his memory die by living up to his expectations of him and others. And also, as he says, maybe doing it to keep the memories of Himmel and his companions alive, as the only way we are ever truly dead is if all memories of us are gone. So before Heather passes away, he wants Frieren to take Fern as her apprentice, but she basically just denies him, saying, no, it's going to be a burden, just going to get killed, you know how dangerous this is, I'm not going to get the one person my friend entrusted to me to die in my care. He comes up with this excuse, so she's there for some years to train her in the meantime, and eventually ends up taking her as an apprentice. And that's when this adventure really starts, I would say. Heather as well, right before he dies, on his deathbed basically, tells Frieren to go and leave with Fern as soon as they can, the same night, so that Fern doesn't have to see him dying and lose anyone else, as she lost her parents and such prior. But then Frieren comes back and says no, she has already been ready to say goodbye for a long time. Your job, right now, with the time you have left, is to say a proper farewell and make all the good memories you can in the time you have left. To me, that really harkened back to her trying to understand, and maybe in her own regret as well, not wanting a friend and companion of hers make the same mistake that she did by not using every single moment she had left to get to know Himmel before he died. This brings us to another point that I quite like in this show, in that when they go to this village and they basically get asked by this old lady to help clean up the statue of Himmel that's been there for like 80 years since they defeated this monster that attacked their town. See that this old lady, this 80-whatever-year old lady, is the only one in town there probably that still remembers him, and the only one that still cares for him and the statue they put up in his honor. And it's how, again, the passage of time, what felt like a moment ago for Frieren is a whole lifetime for everyone else in this world. And in this episode as well, you see how much she maybe cared for Himmel and her other companions, especially Himmel perhaps, and how she never realized that before. As she's cleaning up the statue, she wants to plant these flowers that she knew Himmel liked, that grew in his own town, that he said they're beautiful and whatnot, he wanted to show her one day. So she ends up spending 6-8 months just searching for these flowers, which is a ludicrous thing to think about if you're a normal human being with a limited lifespan. But that was important enough to her to just spend some time on, even though to her, it's not really that important because it's only 6 months, right? But in these moments as well, you feel or start to understand that Frieren might have had more feelings, maybe not love, but a deep connection to Himmel and her other companions, more than she was able to realize herself back in the day, and is just now slowly trying to understand after most of them are gone. This is also when we start getting some interesting interplay between Fern and Frieren. Fern being just a teenager, being maybe the epitome of impatient in one's life, and her confronting Frieren with, hey, we've been in this small town searching for this one flower that's been gone for like decades. How long are we going to be here? We have other things to do. Again, just having this clash of the perception and importance of time that for her, especially being so young, every day feels like forever, right? And Frieren not really understanding or maybe caring or giving credence to how important time is for Fern or any other human for that matter. Saying that, hey, we're going to find it soon. We're going to be done with this finding the flower soon. When is soon, right? A year, 10 years? Like, how soon is soon? What does that mean? But what we see in episode 2 of Fern having this potential lack of understanding or willingness to understand or ability to understand how important time is for Fern and humans. In episode 4, we do see her explaining that, no, let's not search for this tome in the way I was wanting to, because it's going to take a long time. And I don't want to do that because Fern wouldn't like it. And I don't want to sort of waste a lot of her time doing that. Perhaps finally showing that Frieren is starting to try to appreciate and be considerate towards other people's time and how important it is to them, even though to her, it's nothing. Another note I made for episode 2 to showcase how Frieren might really be more connected and having cared more for Himmel especially than she might herself realize was that Fern asks her, why do you collect all these spells? Why did you start collecting all these spells as a hobby? Like, yeah, I mean, it's just something I started doing because before I was really apathetic, didn't really have a purpose, a mission. But one day, this guy, Himmel in this case, said that he liked my spells. And so I just started collecting spells. That's just what I do now, it's my hobby. Again, just showing that one comment that Himmel made all the way back when they were on their adventure had such an impact on her that she just started doing it as her main purpose or hobby. Outside the passage of time, I think another part of this anime that is really interesting to me is how we are seeing Frieren being very dense at times, being very ditzy, and being like a child in many ways in terms of being able to wake up early or take care of basic things in life. She is starting to try to understand what is actually important to her, what she values in life, because before their adventure with her companions, she didn't really seem to have any purpose in life. She was just apathetic. She was just going around doing stuff. Nothing really mattered too much. She was just around. But now, maybe starting to try to realize and learn what is valuable in life, what she can do to maybe build connections, relationships, and do something that she feels is important. And that journey in and of itself, I think, can be quite moving if done correctly, which I expect it will be. As we go along these first 4 episodes as well, as I mentioned, Frieren does start to develop this ability or this want to try to get to know people better, and in this case, Fern better, as she is now her new only companion. And she does this by trying to understand her, trying to get to know her, just in some small ways, even though she's really bad at it. She does this by firstly sneaking off to buy her this brooch, whatever it's called, for her hair for her birthday. Like, hey, I got this for you for your birthday. Oh yeah, it is my birthday. You remembered, basically. Wow, what a surprise. And actually trying to be thoughtful, trying to be considerate, and trying to just know people. Actually trying to make an effort to do so, while she did not at all before, which led to her having this, I would say, deep sense of regret, especially around Himmel, that, again, she had all this time, but she wasted it, she squandered it, and now she might never have the ability to talk to him again, pending, of course, the whole plot point of the adventure there going on at the end of episode 4. Another really good example in episode 3 that I really appreciated that went on the passage of time and how much time is important and how much can happen in a short amount of time, is this storyline of this really super powerful demon mage that worked for the Demon King. Super powerful mage that developed his own special killing magic that was so powerful he killed most the mages and adventurers in the entire region. And 80 years prior, when they were on their adventure, they couldn't kill him because he was too powerful. So Frieren could only seal him. And now when she unsealed him because the seal was breaking and fought him again, then we get to see that, yeah, guess what? The killing magic, the insanely powerful offensive magic that you used to annihilate all your enemies and opponents 80 years ago, is now just considered normal offensive magic. Because after you were sealed, humans took upon themselves to learn the magic, to understand it, build defenses against it, and now it's just normal offensive magic that all mages use, basically, and there are defenses against it. So, it's not special anymore. And then, of course, uses the same spell to kill this demon mage. But just that usage of time, that ability to use time in this way to showcase like how much something can change in a short amount of time. I mean, 80 years for most people, or human beings in this case, is a huge amount of time. And humans can get a lot done in 80 years. Just consider in our own world how much has happened, how much has developed, how much has advanced in 80 years. You would be astounded just trying to think about all the things that has happened. And the same applies here. And again, that is just a passage and use of time I have not really seen in anime before, as far as I can remember. And I really quite like it. Using it as a real narrative tool. On the passing of time, I really appreciate, just in general, how they keep going to all these different places. For example, in this town where they defeated this demon mage, and she meets this old guy, 80, 90 years old, but she says, "Hey, what's that hat? No, I remember this hat specifically." It's like, "Oh yeah, you were this brat, like 80 years ago, that flipped up my skirt." It's like, you have all these moments where you really feel and see the difference in how time has treated them, and I really quite enjoy that. In episode 4, we learn a lot as well that I thought was quite impactful and enjoyable. She goes to this harbor town, and she decides to help clean the harbor because there's not enough people in the village to do it anymore for themselves. She even takes a false tome of the legendary mage Flam to do so, even though she knows it's fake. She's doing it for her own selfish reasons. Because a long time ago, when Himmel and the others were on the adventurer's path to the Demon King, they stopped at this village and they saw the New Year's sunrise, which was supposed to be really beautiful over this lake or ocean. But Frieren, who is unable to get up in the morning because, well, she's a couch potato, I guess, she decided not to go with the others to see the sunrise. And after, Himmel said to her, "But you should have come. I wanted you to enjoy it with us. And I thought it was something you would enjoy." So she does all this to see the sunrise, not really because she wants to see it herself, but because it's something she wants to experience, because Himmel and the others wanted her to see it all that time back. And perhaps by doing so, trying to understand how well they knew her, even though she barely knew them at all. And when she finally does see the sunrise, she says to herself, it's a nice sunrise, but it's nothing special. So I guess Himmel didn't really know me that well after all. But then when she sees Fern smile, and they have some comments back and forth, and realizing that sharing this moment was a lot of the enjoyment that was there to have had. And that in watching this sunrise with Fern and smiling because she was enjoying herself, she then is able to realize in a way how to have this expression and say to herself, "I would not have been able to see this sunrise on my own." And that comment in and of itself, I think it has a lot of meaning. So after this fact, they go to Eisen, the dwarf, who is still alive. Good for him. I guess he's a dwarf, so he lives a bit longer, but still, he's getting old. And they go to find the legendary, home of Flam, who is this 1,000-year-old super legendary mage who's been written about in history books. But of course, it's Frieren's prior teacher, because she's that old and more. And then she asks Eisen, why were you and Hyther looking for this tome and for the notes of Flam? And then he says, we were talking back and forth, and we realized that you really regretted not being able to get to know Himmel when he was alive. We wanted to help you. We felt sorry for you. We thought you had a lot of regrets. So we went upon this search for decades, I assume, to try to help you find this, so you can finally try to get some closure and say these things to him yourself, as they are supposed to find this area, or Flam supposedly was able to talk to the dead. Of course, this leads them to finding the old home of the legendary mage, She looks at the notes. Even when she finds this book in this protected area, she sees that the specific page for talking to the dead, was opened by her prior master. Because as the prior master said to her 1,000 years prior, in one day, you will realize your mistake. You will want to have gotten to know people better, want to make a connection with them, but it will be too late, and you will have regrets. And that's when you will come here, and I will help you. And that's the point where they set out on this new 10-year journey with Frieren and Fern, retracing the steps basically of a prior party, and going to the furthest north where the demon castle is, and finding this heaven basically, where spirits can talk to the living and whatnot, trying to reach Himmel and finally have a conversation with him. Now, I'm not sure how long it's going to take, considering how quickly they skip time in this anime, but I assume the first core at least will be this journey. I'm not really sure how far the manga is, but we'll have to see. But even in the moment where Aizen says to Fern, yeah, it'll be a 10-year journey, that's how long it took us to go to the demon castle and back. Frieren says yeah, it'll be another mere 10-year adventure. But then she has a small smile on her face, and I think that can say a lot about how she's maybe changing to that now. She is going to try to appreciate the adventure she is on, actually sort of live in the moment, try to actually get to know Fern, build relationships and meaningful connections in as human a capacity as she can. Now, I have been mumbling a lot for a long time in this video, but this show, as I said at the beginning, is such a good show. I really, really love it for a lot of different reasons. It is by far my favorite anime this season so far. Well, it just started, but I assume it will be anime of the season for me. It's going to be really hard to top this, really hard. Maybe even anime of the year for me, because nothing I've seen this year is as good as this, in my opinion. To end off here, my ending notes. I do really like how, again, they show the passage of time, how important it is, and really makes you think on it. How cruel time can be, how important each and every small moment is, so you can leave life without regrets. Because having regrets, especially regrets you are unable to do anything about, which is usually the nature of regrets, that hits you like a gut punch, and you would like to do anything to get rid of that feeling, because it is goddamn awful, but you can't. And that's what makes you want to never repeat the same mistake again. Another note I really didn't mention so far in this video is just how well they also incorporate the comedic moments and the comedic relief in this show to lighten the mood, to have some fun every now and again, to have these moments where you can smile, have a small laugh, and not just be down all the time, as this is a show that can definitely be prone to making a bit depressed, I guess, if you really get into it. But they really mix those comedic moments well, which makes the show even more of an enjoyable watch. Especially in this 4th episode, when Fern is basically acting like Frieren's mother. She's taller than her now, and basically she's dragging her out of bed in the morning, grooming her hair, giving her food, making sure she's dressed. And just the duality of Frieren and Fern I find really interesting and fun, and I can't wait to see what they really do with that relationship, as it seems that it's almost like Fern is the mother and Frieren is the daughter in this relationship in many ways. But I can't really wait to see how they develop this and how they might show them learning from each other, building on their relationship between each other, how they interact, how they see each other, and how they're able to just appreciate each other for the differences they have, and getting to be better people based on their time together. As a few final notes as well, I do really like the gradual change we are seeing in Frieren, and that we are really seeing very small incremental changes. These are not changes that are happening overnight. She's not suddenly super emotional. She's not suddenly someone that really understands human connection or relationships or all these things. But ever so slowly, we are in tiny, tiny amounts seeing her change, seeing her realize things and learning things and growing. And that is really nice to see. And you really want to keep seeing her exploring these things, learning these things, realizing these things. As a final note, I can't understand if people find this show slow. It is definitely not a fast-paced action anime, right? You're not going to get a lot of battles here. You're not going to get a ton of action or a high-octane gameplay, I almost said. This is going to be a slow burn, and it's a very sort of impactful, deep narrative drive. So if you really don't gel with that, I can see why a section of people really will not like this anime, because it just doesn't really feel right for them. But for me, they are not spending too much time on anything. It's not too slow for me. I think it is very well paced, and they really take enough time, even including silences, like adding 5 seconds here or 5 seconds there, to really emphasize something, to make a moment even more impactful, even more important, which I think is much more of a boon than anything else. But of course, again, if you can't get into that, I understand. It's not for everyone. It is what it is. As a whole, though, after watching these first 4 episodes, or the special episode, 2-hour special, Frieren is an absolute joy to watch. I cannot recommend it enough. It is absolutely stunningly beautiful, not only visually, not only musically, but emotionally, and just how they have portrayed this story so far is absolutely great. And I cannot give enough props to Madhouse for their work on this one. With that being said, what do you think of Frieren so far? Do you love it? Hate it? What are your thoughts? Leave those down below in the comment section. And please do like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff to support this channel. I will be covering Frieren every single week while it is airing without doubt, and making multiple other videos as well along the way on the show because I'm very invested already. With all that being said, I hope you have a good day. And if you want to watch another episode review of a new show this season that I think might be quite good over time, you can check out episode 1 review of My Daughter Turned an S-Rank Adventurer here.